We're diving into the solar plexus today. This is the rainbow of emotions, everything that you can experience on the spectrum of feelings, emotions. Before we dive into that, I want to thank you all for the poll that we did in Gene Keys and Human Design Group. You guys had voted, which one do you feel represents the solar plexus hub? And we gave you two options. They're both waves of some kind. And it was super interesting to see your responses and which ones you chose. So if you haven't seen these keys yet, which one are you drawn to? A or B? So if you haven't voted and you'd like to share in the chat, which one are you drawn to? This is going to be the master key for the solar plexus center. A lot of you actually chose A. If you were defined, a lot of people who had a defined solar plexus center tended to gravitate towards this one. And the people who had an undefined solar plexus center tended to gravitate towards this. Bella, do you have any speculations as to why they were attracted to one or the other?
Yeah, I feel if you are defined, the wave is something that you have learned to live with. And you are going to know more or less how your wave works. So when you see a wave, you interpret it in the way that it becomes your wave. Ashley actually even said that when you look at the bottom of the key, that's another kind of wave. So I think you know your wave, you see a wave here in one way or another, and then you identify with it. When you have an open emotional center, it looks like this murky thing that you never know what's going to happen. And there's like so much going on. So you're like, okay.
Everybody's wave is welcome.
That's like the weather of not knowing what is going to come. And you're in that labyrinth of that wave that isn't yours. That it's coming inside of you and it's amplifying. And before you're aware, you might amplify it. And then your not self comes in. And that's when it becomes very uncomfortable. I think that one of the most uncomfortable centers for me of my open centers is absolutely the solar plexus. And I think it's also part of the fact that the people that have the emotional center defined is their authority. So it's not just somebody's defined center coming into you, it's actually people's authority coming into you and you amplify it. And you never really know what's going to happen because you don't have your own consistency there. So that for me is connected to why B could be the choice for most people who are undefined.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so after a lot of contemplation, and Bella was like, I don't like either of them. I'm like, what do I do here? There's so much division between these two keys. And we were focused on the waveform, right? And Bella's like, it needs to represent all the different waves that we can experience for it to be accurate. And I couldn't choose A or B because it's like, okay, if I choose A, then a lot of the people that were defined are like, yeah, you chose me, but the people that chose B I didn't want to disappoint anyone. But I realized that after a while and after a lot of contemplation that there was a C, there was a place that was able to hold both of them. And so it's already up. So we're gonna show you that actually what we have decided is that it's not about the wave, it's about your ability to surf these waves. So surfing the emotional waves, whether it's defined, whether it comes from you and you've learned how to, surf your own emotional waves, or it's B, where you're undefined and you're taking in all these different ways. Are you able to surf the waves coming in from all directions for the people that are defined around you, that you're absorbing, that you're taking in, and learning how to surf them and not be drowned by them and not identify with them and not be drawn into the current of somebody else's emotional wave. So here with this key, all waves are welcome. The surfer doesn't care if the waves are small or big, it is using the wave as his playground and also as an ability to master the skill of surfing. So he welcomes all waves, and maybe some waves are going to be very scary and very challenging for him. But if he says yes and has the courage to ride the wave, he's going to learn something, whether he wipes out or he is able to actually mount that wave and surf it. Would you add anything about surfing the emotional waves, Bella?
I feel this concept of waiting, because right before we said, if you have an emotional center that is defined, you have an emotional authority. And we know that with emotional authority, being able to wait is really where you're going to be able to see the reward of that wisdom that is, there's an inherent wisdom in the emotional center, it's an awareness center. So when we wait it out, then it can actually, you can get rewarded for that. But if you just act without surfing, you're like, oh, one wave, let me jump, and kind of not, when you don't have the ability to surf, that's when we can't actually see. Maybe more than a wisdom, it's an intelligence. Wisdom might be what we say that we have in the open center, but there's absolutely an emotional intelligence, and that's also when we name this part of the body graph, where we realize there is the competency in here, and that competency you can arrive to through the wisdom of having an open center, but also through that inherent intelligence that lies in this motor center that is becoming an awareness center as the mutation is happening right now, and we can actually have emotional clarity through the emotional center.
The last thing that I would mention, or no, I agree with what you said, Bella. When we get fixated on this or that, it limits the possibilities for us. And sometimes when we're in an emotional wave and we're experiencing something, we get really attached to our opinion, our belief, because we're also trying to just survive this wave. So we're like, if you would just be like this, or if this or that, like we're going to get super attached to one thing because we think that thing is going to save us from our feelings when we're not actually accepting what we're feeling. And I think that this is a beautiful representation of, you know, it's not this or that. There's a place where we can hold both of it. And so maybe two people are going to be having their own ways. One person is a defined emotional center, right? And they're like having their wave, they're triggered, they're on their wave, B's feeling it and amplifying it with the undefined. And it's like, can we meet together? Can we come together in this? And where we both can exist, we both can have our feelings, we're both valid, what we're both experiencing is true, and nobody is attacking or trying to make the other person's experience nullified or gaslighting or whatever it is that we do when we're met with like emotional conflict and turbulence. So C allows us both to have this space of like, you're going to ride the wave differently than I am. It's just, do you know how you're riding the wave and what you need, and being able to communicate that to the other. That's emotional competency, knowing what the wave is like for you and what you need to help you get through it, not to fix it, not to numb it, not to subdue it, to really be, accept, feel, embrace that emotion and do what you will with it before you come back together to kind of co-regulate. What do you need to do to self-regulate? And then how can you come back together to co-regulate and be able to communicate with the other? This is what I need right now. I'm on a wave and it's tough. I've never been on this wave before. I need to navigate this for myself. And some people are more adept at like co-regulating. They're like, hey, I need to talk this through. It's really intense for me. I don't know how to ride this wave. I've never experienced it before. Can I talk it through with you? You're going to have your own strategies. And it's about you being able to dive into these emotions and see, okay, what do I need right now? So we're going to learn to surf the emotional waves together. Okay. All right. So this is our solar plexus hub. And these are the archetypes that live within this center. So remember, we're calling these hubs because they are the gathering place. They are the commune. They're the house that all these archetypes live in. And each of these archetypes have their own room, has their own door, and they've got their own space where they're experiencing and living, right? But they're going to come together and have the same theme of emotional competency and relating because they're all part of this same hub. So the common thread is emotional competency relating. This is all about the realm of emotions. So we're going to see here, we have the 30, which we call the first starter, the 55, which we call the game changer, the 49, which we call the revolutionary, the 6 is the peacemaker, the 7 is the mother, the 22 is grace, and the 36 is the storm. So these are the 7 archetypes that live within this hub. And actually, I'm gonna stop the slides for one moment. And we'll post this link for you. This is going to be on our website. And if you're wanting to investigate these archetypes for yourself, it lists all of them. The fire starter, the game changer, all the different archetypes. You can go to their particular 64 door page, unlock that door and experience the archetypes so that you can get to know them. And you can tell like with the images, they're all very intense. They're beautiful though. So those are the archetypes here. Bella, did you have anything to mention or add to this?
No, I'm good for right now.
Okay. All right. So I wanted to mention that within our Thrive by Design series, all of this stuff is happening inside the inner circle. So every month we come live and we do this public event for you guys where we're unlocking the particular hub or center that is the theme for the month. So the theme for this month is the solar plexus hub. So after today, our inner circle community will be diving into the solar plexus hub. And this is kind of the agenda and content that we went through in the sacral hub. So we had the event where we unlocked the sacral hub. That was for the public. And then we had a few like information and then a video. We had an embodiment webinar where everybody inside the inner circle came together and we worked with the sacral hub and we got into our body. It wasn't like, what is the sacral center and all of this like teaching and information. It was like, how can you get into your body? And Bella's going to go into, actually, Bella, do you want to go into like, why do we enter in through the body? Why is that the first place we go to instead of just giving them the teaching and the understanding of all of it? Why is that important?
Yeah, I guess even if I spent all morning with draw, there is something where it's a lot of like, I'm thinking about it when I started with human design and Gene Keys, there was so much going around in my head and I tried to grasp it and it was just so intense in that sense. So for me, when we go in through the body and we start to reconnect with those centers, like the response of the sacral or the intuition and the instinct of the spleen or the fuel of the root, when the further down close to our roots in the body that we get it, the more that click actually becomes something we don't have to think about, but it becomes our way of moving through the world. So for me, starting at the bottom of the body graph and reconnecting those parts of us and almost like turning on the light of all these intelligences or competencies that we have, in each and every one of the centers, that for me is the way where it feels more balanced than the intensity that I felt from the beginning. And I also felt this pressure that I had to grasp it. And of course, open head, open ajna with the 11 and the 61. But really, even now today, when we are teaching it like that, I feel less tired by it, even when when you and I go into it totally and we teach it, like by starting from the body, it just feels more true to me and more grounding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So bringing it in through the body first and foremost, we have, again, a workbook for exploration into it and seeing like, what do you have defined so that you can have your own investigation into the hub. We also do illuminated design readings for people that are in the inner circle. So if you are part of the inner circle, you have the potential to get your chart read by us. So that's one thing that we're offering. And then we have the teaching, and it's generally like 30-minute teaching. Although me and Bella are spending like 2 hours for each of these, going into much, much more depth. And we have no idea how these teachings are going to come into play. At some point or another, they're going to be released. But for now, we have like, what's the center? What does it mean to have defined or undefined? And then we go like really deep into the archetypes, and it's been like 2-hour processes. But again, as we're going around the wheel and we are going deeper into these, we're also deepening our own mastery as well. So that in each center, we're going to go into the archetypes, go deeper. And it's also helping us as teachers as well, be able to go into the circuitry, go into like all the different aspects of these archetypes and really illuminate them in a way that we haven't before. So that's been really exciting too. Okay, so back to the solar plexus hub. Woo! Okay, I don't think I asked this, but a lot of people already wrote what is defined in your solar plexus. So for those of you on Facebook or YouTube or joining the replay, whenever that comes, please let us know what's defined in your solar plexus. So Bella had said hers is completely open. That means she doesn't have any gates defined. No archetypes are taking up space here. Her house is empty. Her solar plexus hub is empty. There's no furniture. There's no one living in it. She's like, oh, you want to come and hang out with me for a day? Come hang out with me. And she's like inviting the revolutionary to come in, and then it leaves, but it doesn't stay. I have an open emotional center, solar plexus center, and I have the 6 and the 36. The 6 is my life's work and the 36 is my evolution. So I have my life's work and evolution in an open center. So the way that I experience these is in my interaction with other people, when this lights up with an interaction, or when I'm experiencing a wave coming in from somebody else's defined. That doesn't mean I can't have my own emotional waves. Like, I'm not devoid of emotion. If you guys don't have a defined solar plexus center, that doesn't mean you're not going to feel. That doesn't mean they're not yours. We all feel in some way, but it does start and trigger, if you have it open, through somebody else's wave, through something that someone else is emoting and you're receiving and taking in.
I have something here without over explaining it, but I have the only gates. So this is human design mechanics. The only gates that I have in my body graph that are pointing towards the solar plexus are the 41 and the 39 in the root. So they are like pointing towards the 55 and the 30, but I don't have the 55 and the 30. So what I can see is that in my relationships, I actually attract people that have the 55 or the 30. And that is the way that I tend to live my emotional landscape. And the 55, 39, it's an individual channel. It's part of the individual circuitry. And it's about passion. It's about creativity. So when I connect with somebody who has the 55, I remember dating somebody who had the 55. It was an emotional projector. And that energy of passion, of creativity, of even mutation, the mutation where spirit can actually rise in the 39, 55. And then we have the 30 and the 41, which is the experimental way. And that's where I can feel like I just need to have the hunger of kind of have that experience and go on that roller coaster because it's so exciting. But I mean, and then after you're like, what was the point with that? Well, the point was to experience the wisdom, to have that and kind of put that in one of like in all that backpack with everything I've experienced in my life that then becomes wisdom. But so really, when you have gates that are pointing towards the solar plexus, even if you have nothing, you can often see that they are part of your experience. So everybody is going to have contact with this emotional center. And I feel also sometimes when I'm kind of thrown into the process of the other gates where I don't even have something meeting, then I'm not like that, oh, this is passion, this is exciting. Then I'm more like, oh my God, what am I in for here? And then I often more have learned to observe than to actually kind of co-create the drama.
Is that helpful for some of you, especially those of you that have the open, and Bella talking about, the harmonic gate and what it like, if you have anything reaching for the solar plexus, if you have it completely open, you're going to be attracting people to define that, especially if this is what bridges your split. And again, we won't get into a lot of technical things, but that will make sense to some of you that do have a little bit of knowledge in terms of human design. Okay, so let me see what we have.
And I think this is one of the things, just to understand that there are going to be different flavors, so many different flavors on the solar plexus. The solar plexus has to do with food and sex. But it's going to be different ways that you are going to experience that. And some are going to be, like I said, more about passion. Some are going to be more about need. Some are going to be more about desire or hunger. So different kind of flavors. And that's what we were saying before. There's so many different colors, flavors, waves. And I always say, for people to have an emotional center, you're here to live the spice of life, the color of life. And that's also why we see this rainbow vortex inside the center.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Laura says that she is the 19 and her 3 kids have the 49. So she's saying, I assume mine is defined most of the time too. Yeah. Especially if you're living in the same house together, you're also being conditioned by their 49. Like you have it defined most of the time. Like if you did a connection chart between you and another person and your partner, your husband, your spouse, whatever it is, or your boyfriend or girlfriend, you're going to have a connection chart where it's like superimposed on top of each other. So sometimes that'll define the solar plexus center, the head, and the ajna. It just depends on what harmonic gates are coming together that you guys are bridging for each other to create definition. And so that's where you guys are going to be experiencing, that realm. Obviously, it's good to have some open centers within a relationship, because that's where you can let the other in. If your relationship completely defines your body graph like this, it's all filled in. When you're in relationship with somebody else, we call that 9-0, nowhere to go. And that means that there's no external influence that can get in, because you guys define everything for each other. So it can either feel very oppressive and very like, oh my God, I'm suffocated. Or it can feel like you've created your own little amazing world that you don't want to let anyone else in. So there's no room for any external influence there, because there's nothing that's open. So, it just depends on your preference, when you're coming into relationship. And when you start looking at composite charts and relationship by design, it's interesting to see what you attract. Like, for example, Bella, you tend to like to attract people that you have a lot of attraction channels with, like the harmonics coming together. It's super potent and energetic. I don't tend to attract that. I tend to have like a couple, maybe 2 harmonics, but Bella, she's like, I'm gonna go big or go home.
I need 6 or something, and I'm happy. I had 12 with a manifester once, and I'm like, this is so exciting. 12 electromagnetics. That's like never seen on.
No, that's insane. Okay. I wish we can look at there's so much going on in the chat. I want to kind of see what's going on, but we do need to pick an archetype to go more deep into. So there is a poll that I set up for us, Bella, here. Are you able to initiate the poll for the solar plexus? So anybody that's inside the Zoom container with us, they have the possibility to vote on which of these archetypes are we going to go in depth with. There we go. Bella has it pulled up. So you're able, oh yay, keep voting. You're able to all vote on which ones you want us to explain and go deep into. And so we're gonna pick an archetype and we're gonna talk about it.
In the meantime, I would just like to say that even if you have people in your family that you're creating an electromagnetic with, or that have the whole channel, so that you're going to feel that definition in the solar plexus, it doesn't change you. If you are a reflector, you're still with no inner authority, you're still going to be a reflector with no inner authority, even if all your kids are defined, for example. So it doesn't change you, but it's true that you get to experience what that wave is. So just know that the transits or other people can never change your design, but they can have you become wise about things that aren't there for you all the time. And of course, if they are in your life all the time, you have the potential to become very, very wise. But there's also a very, very big risk when you aren't aware, before you even start with the deconditioning process, that you are going to be running the not self strategy all the time. And the not self strategy for the open emotional is to avoid truth and confrontation. So you're going to kind of have that, Ross speaks about it as the secret life, because often you don't even want to speak about something that upsets you, because then the other people might react to that too, and it's just going to be worse. He even speaks about the kid that goes to school and something happens, like it's a little bit bullied, maybe not a big thing, but it takes it in and it becomes super big. And then it comes home, and if it tells the parents, they are going to be upset about it. But that's even worse. So next time something like that happens in school, the child is going to come home, and when they ask the child, how was today? It's going to say, oh, it's fine. It's going to go into his room and close the door, because it's not going to want to feel that more energy, the emotional energy of the parents. And I can so relate to that. Sometimes I didn't even want to tell my mom if I went to a birthday party that it was fun, because I could feel the feeling of fun. But if I told her, she would be so excited. So I could suddenly not even feel my own joy about it. So to share my emotions with an emotional authority that had a 55-39 when I only have the 39, that for me is like I was drowning in something that wasn't mine, or I was overpowered by that whole channel in the negative. So yeah, these are just some things to keep in mind. And I think maybe now that Paul, should we end it, Ashley?
Okay. Did you? Okay, you shared. Can you guys see the results of the poll? Because Bella shared it. Okay, so let's see. The third winner is between the Peacemaker and the Game Changer. In second place, what do we have? Oh no, all of them are changing. Yeah, anyways, okay, the Revolutionary is in second place. And then in first place, we have Grace, the Invitation. So Archetype 22. Archetype 22 has been voted as the one that we're going to go into. Perfect. Okay. So let's go into Grace. Grace is a really awesome one for the emotional center. That one has a lot of highs and lows. I tend to attract a lot of people with the 22. My daughter, who's a reflector, she has the 22 5 times in her chart. That and the 54, she has a ton. And my husband has the Radiant Sphere 22, 22.1. Does anybody here have the 22? If you do have the 22, which we like to call the Invitation or Grace, type it in the chat or in the comments. Awesome. Okay, let me share with you first our 64 Doors website. Actually, let me pull. I'm still seeing the results. I'm going to X them out. Okay, so this is our 64 Doors website. So you're able to view Grace here. So we call this the Invitation because we're inviting Grace into our lives. And here's our 64 Doors portal website. So this artwork was created by Lindsay Foy. So a lot of if it would come up, Lindsay has done a lot of the emotional centers, a lot of the emotional center archetypes actually. So she created this one. There's also another version of this as well. She did 2 for Grace. So yeah, if you check out our website, there's more information here, but we're going to go deeper into the archetype. I just wanted to make sure that I shared with you the 64 Door website and what we have here. There is a description of it. We have stuff from Richard, Simone, who was the portal guardian and who you've seen a lot last year, actually. And then Bella has a little snippet of teaching about it, explaining that. And then we have a bunch of other resources for you. There's a lot of richness inside this 22nd door. There's a lot. And we will be developing it further as we are adding it to our Portals of Deconditioning course too, because we haven't yet come upon its transit. It will be transiting in some months now, but I'm going to stop sharing this and then let's get into the 22. Can you start us off, Bellis? Orient us with Grace.
I mean, this would be the key, what I feel is containing everything of the gene keys and everything that has to do with ascension and kind of cleaning out our karma or our core wounds, we could say, so that we can live truly as who we are. And for me, this is a different approach. So far today, we've spoken a lot about the human design and the mechanics. And the gene keys for me, it's another way to go about it. And it speaks a lot about the core wound and about this accept, embrace, allow, accept, embrace. So that for me really is what the 22 is speaking about. And it's speaking about courage, because for me, this is a Pisces gate and it's beyond really what we can grasp. And it's even beyond what's really human. And it kind of speaks about also this Akashic record where everything is. And to understand what our role in that is, it kind of just requires courage and trust. Those are 2 words that come to me. And I feel like, I don't even know where to start with this archetype, because I feel like today, I don't want to go about it just the way we speak about the archetype. I'm feeling like the whole transmission that Richard is doing. I definitely feel the 7 sacred seals. I definitely feel all these the rainbow body. So everything from the physical to the emotional to like all these bodies that I believe that we are becoming aware of. And I think that 1987, when the human design transmission came through, I think that very few of us had access to that cellular truth. I think there were people that have had, but now we are all becoming more aware of the layering of existence. And like I always say, and that we said from the beginning too, to start from the physical. When you start from the physical, you are going to have access to all the other bodies. If you go out in the causal body, for example, and you start to just do things there, it can actually be that your physical body, your emotional body, your mental body come before, that you don't do the work there. And then the deconditioning doesn't happen. And then you're kind of split again, and you're living in a world where you feel like you are maybe freed from the human predicament, but we're never freed from the human predicament, because through the gene keys, we know that it's in our DNA. And if we don't tend to those parts of ourselves, and what we can use here is really to look at our core wound, look at our SQ, look at our EQ, look at our IQ. Here you have the imprinting that happened from the 9 months in the womb, the 7 first years of your life, the physical cellular imprint in the SQ. Then you have the from 8 to 14, the emotional imprints that happened when you were adolescent and you had to start relating to the world by yourself, not through your parents only. And then from 15 to 21, when you start to make sense of the world with your mind, so you can actually kind of avoid feeling the emotional stuff and the physical stuff that maybe was too hard to remember. And then it closes the door for you to go back to the core and to actually unlock your vocation. And it often creates a loop between your IQ, your mind, and your core, where you use your mind to void your core wound. That thing that your soul said, okay, I'm up for it, I'm going down, and I would work with this. And that's very well, like the 22 for me is kind of the portal guardian to that Akashic record, where we can see how it's happened over and over and over again, all the things that are pointing us back to those 6 core wounds that we are here to resolve. And where the time is now, it hasn't been before, it's now that we are coming down, and that we have the awareness enough to start to look at the core wound of repression, the core wound of denial, the core wound of shame, the core wound of rejection, the core wound of guilt, and the core wound of separation. And this is the Venus work. So today I actually feel like this archetype, Grace, she's inviting us to go into the work that is the Venus work. And if you don't do the Venus work, there's no point of going into the Pearl. There's no point of doing anything. This is the real work where, for me, Unlock Your Design starts in this work where you're looking at the fragmented parts, you're revealing what's there. And from that place, you can start to unify into what you're here to be.
Okay, I'm gonna share one more piece with you. So we'll expand on Grace through this one. I actually really like this piece of art better. It represents, it's a dance of emotions, and we have fire here, and it's like this archetype has to learn how to be on the highs and the lows, when to share with others. This one has a beautiful ability to like hold a room and be able to like share their emotions with the room and like touch people and like bring something up for somebody. With the 12, it's also linked, or sorry, with the 22, it's also the harmonic gate for the 12, and the 12 is the gate of caution, and we call this one the prophet. If you have not processed your emotions, it's going to be hard for you to speak them, to articulate them. And if you are, and the tone of voice comes through with the 12 a lot. So the 22 is what's informing the 12 and changing the tonality, because this is a throat gate. So if the 22 is pissed off and triggered, you're going to feel it, sense it, hear it in the tone of the 12. The 12 can cut you. It can like say the worst things because of its emotional reaction that is coming from the 22 as well. 22 has highs and lows, but in its exalted expression, it can empower you. It can make you feel amazing. And that is the potential here with the 22, being able to like hold the energy of the room and speak to people and touch people. And I think that, I mean, if all of us just did the work in, like Bella said, the Venus sequence, we would all be better off. I feel like our parents did the best that they could with what they had. And we are going back through time to heal the wounds of our past to come into the emotional competence that we are experiencing in the EQ sphere. If we're not maturing and graduating in these 7 different phases, we're kind of like, a part of us is stuck in that energy. A part of us is stuck as this 12-year-old little girl or little boy that didn't have the role modeling of the family and was not sharing the emotions, didn't know how to ride his or her wave because it wasn't role modeled correctly and it wasn't taught explicitly. So we are just doing the best we can with what we have. And oftentimes we find it that the IQ sphere, or what's going on there, is just protecting us from feeling the emotions. So any of those mental strategies that we're creating and the things that we value inside of the IQ sphere, we're just protecting ourselves against what we might feel in the emotional quotient in the EQ sphere. So I think that with the 22, this one is about surfing the waves. This one has to be like an expert surfer because the waves are so high in some cases and so low. There's like drought and excitement and emotionality, and the emotions can be really big here. So I think Grace is a perfect archetype to be speaking about within the solar plexus center. Okay, so what do we have? Just looking at the chat. Do you want to go into the specific core wounds, Bella? Just to mention
what I feel
we
here,
didn't mention
what I
them.
want to say here is about Christ consciousness, because at the end of the day, when we activate our rainbow body, when we get access to all these layers of ourselves, where the first layers to take responsibility for is the physical, the emotional, and the mental, then there is more. And when we get access to that, we become whole. And for me, I see the 22 as a portal guardian again for wholeness. Like when we can accept all these different parts of ourselves. And I think even emotionally, like we were saying in the beginning, it's scary. Whether you are defined emotionally and you are in that hope and despair, and you don't know what's going to happen with the wave, because it's like you said before, Ashley, often feels like even if you've been there before, it can feel like you have no control over it because you have no control over it. And what's important with the wave in that sense is that there is no reason. I think that the most difficult thing where we go into a loop is then when we start to try to find a reason or make ourselves wrong for the emotional waves. I know a lot of people that are emotional that says, oh, I shouldn't have done that. That's why I'm feeling like this. Or somebody comes in to an emotional person and like, oh, you're down. Why don't you do this and this and this and this to fix it? The emotional wave is not something that has a reason. And that's why this archetype says, have grace for you being an expression of life. And life is going in waves. And if you have an individual gate in the solar plexus center, for example, the 55, there is going to be also great melancholy. And there's just something where, and when you look at the 22-12 as well, which is individual, art comes out when we dare to trust the process, when we dare to be with it. So for me, I think that those discernments are more important than to theoretically go through all the core wounds and be able to say them in the right order as I can. It's like, but that is so tempting and think that that is the solution. But actually, how able are you to wait and know that there is no logical reason or nothing you need to fix when you feel down? I did a video not long ago in the Facebook group, and the longer for the inner circle, but I did a short one for the big group, where I was speaking about an experience with that, the emotional projector, where actually I got for the first time in my life to feel like I wasn't invaded or overwhelmed by the wave, because he had a way of taking responsibility for the wave and not making anybody wrong for it. He wouldn't say, oh, because of this and this, now today I'm feeling like that, and I didn't feel like I was guilty or that there was anything I could fix. So to just actually let go of that, there is something to do. And so much in this world is about that self-help. Oh, take a walk, go for a bath, and then you think that suddenly you're going to go from despair to hope, and that's what is the right way of doing it. No, in the deepest places of despair is where the most beautiful art and poetry has been created. And for me, the alchemist of that is Grace, because she can be with it. She has the courage and the trust to stay there with it, and there is something creative, something new that can get burst. And I think especially those gates that are individual are the ones where we never know what comes out of them. There's something that the world has never seen before. And that's what the 22 is telling us. But it also kind of has the memory of what everything that ever happened, because when that has accumulated enough, that's when suddenly the mutation is going to happen, but it's not in our control.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm gonna quote, paraphrase and quote something that you said that really like spoke to me. Art emerges when we trust the emotional wave. It's not just our emotional wave or somebody else's emotional wave. We just trust it. And art isn't just artwork like this. Like there's an art of being and expressing. And somebody can be in their emotionality without projecting it on somebody else. And that is art. That is beauty. That is expression. And when you can be in your bubble of emotion and express you're crazy and have somebody witness it, that's the most beautiful thing that you can share with somebody else without blaming, without shaming, without throwing your emotions at them and saying, you're the cause of this. What does it help us by blaming someone else on our emotional wave? We're just trying to deflect responsibility onto somebody else when we can be with our wave and be like, this is what I'm feeling. Can I show you how I feel? And making art out of your emotion and acting it and expressing it, that's a gift we give to the world. And sometimes that expression comes through artwork. Sometimes our highs and lows of our emotionality come out through our writing, through our painting, through our drawing, through our, through the things that we channel through us when we're posting randomly on Facebook, or we're taking a photo of something and it elicits this like emotional response, or like, this is why this photo represents what I'm feeling. When we can share our feelings with another without putting the responsibility of our feelings on someone else, like, you're the reason that I'm feeling this way, you're the reason that I'm going through this. Like when we can take ownership of it and just share what we're feeling, our response to the trigger, that's emotional competency. And that's being able to share and to make art out of your sorrow, to make art out of your despair, to make art out of your happiness, to make art out of your hope. How are you creating art with your waves?
Yeah, so I didn't go into it much before because there's so much else that came through, but what we are waking up to is our wholeness, and our wholeness is the Christ consciousness. And it's that consciousness that has the feminine and the masculine inside of it, that has the abstract and the logical inside of it, that has spirit and soul inside of it. So really, when we speak about the 22, it's about the wholeness. And it, like you see, it also has the dark and the light, or what we perceive as dark and light. And when we don't have a preference anymore, and that's a beautiful thing with Christ and with grace, it is to not have a preference. If the divine will is that the cross is it's seemingly the end station of this human life, so be it, because we know that it's not ending, and it's part of that is what opens up for the epiphany. So when you look just at the words, for example, of the 7 sacred seals, you're going to see part of this journey, like the Christ journey. And I mean, I would say if you have the 22, the 7 sacred seals is something where you are going to, I believe, just at least cellularly, even if you don't go into it more, feel a resonance. So the first seal is the 40th gene key and the city of divine will. The second seal is omniscience. So that's the 17th gene key. The third seal is universal love. The 25th, the fourth seal is epiphany, the 43rd gene key. The fifth seal is forgiveness, and that's the 4th gene key. The sixth seal is truth, the 63rd gene key, and the 7th seal is grace, the 22nd gene key. So you could just Google search. Actually, I think we might have it on the website. The 7th seal is open for everybody, and you can use that. And instead of going in to understand all and every core wound, the ones that we made through made it through just by the names. I would see maybe your way of going through it is to go to the 7 sacred seals, because what I just read through, these are the remedies that we can use in order to transcend, we could say, the core wound. And it actually takes us on a contemplation and a felt sense of the city, in order not to bypass, but in order to embrace and just be in grace, of everything that is in that specific core wound. So the grace is the 7th seal. So that would be then the sixth. It's interesting how the 6th core wound of separation, that the grace is the one that has the remedy or can go beyond that core wound of separation. No, that's the 7th. Okay, so grace is the one that is for all of them. Okay.
Yes.
And the 6th is the truth.
And it goes backwards. So when you're taking that 7 sacred seal journey, you start with the 7.
If you don't do like I did, and I went from the
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. So on our 64 Doors website in Door 22, we listed Richard's 7th sacred seal invocation. So you can start there and see kind of like if you're called to take the 7 sacred seal journey, because you're going to know by listening to this and really opening up to grace in your life, you're going to know like, oh, am I ready for the 7 sacred seal journey? It's not a mental thing. You may enter it in that way, but I think that we all know and feel when it's time for us to take that journey. And this is the pendulum or mandala or whatever. I don't know what to call this. This is what represents the different 7 sacred seals. So you can see grace is here, and that says the 22nd. And it says, I can't even read it. Iridescence. I don't know. Anyways, there's a light that's associated with it. There's an archangel that's associated with it. There's the core wound that's associated with it. And grace is what heals that. Well, grace doesn't have a core wound because it's the 7th. It's an anomaly in itself. We're just inviting grace into our lives.
That is the thing. It's almost hard to even imagine it. And I think that's why both you and I are confused now, because it holds the whole transmission. Like that's the 22. It holds all of it, all the core wound. It is that akasha, it's all everything. And it's also why the bardo states when we die, it's that place of purification and rest as well. That surrender, somebody was writing in the chat. Yeah, there is so much surrender here. And I would say it's really cool that the 22 came out as the one that is speaking about the whole emotional center, because I think that it's the richest one, and the one that speaks again about this Christ consciousness that we're waking up to, the sacred union between the polarities, the feminine, the masculine inside of us.
Mm-hmm. We have some questions in the chat in our Q&A section, but I think what we're going to do is we're going to talk about Thrive by Design for a little bit, and then we'll go into the questions. And for those of you that are on the Zoom call with us, please stay, because we are giving away a free month of the Inner Circle, and we also have a discount code for everybody that's on to join the Inner Circle. So let's talk about Thrive by Design for a moment, and then we'll get into the questions to make sure that you guys have clarity with that. So we just went into the solar plexus, like we just unlocked it, talked about the 22. There's 6 other archetypes that live in this center, and a lot more to be understood about the realm of emotions. And again, that key, being able to surf the waves, being able to surf your emotional waves, whether it's emoted from you or you're taking it from somebody else. It's developing that resiliency, developing that confidence and competence within the realm of emotions. So in the Thrive by Design journey, we're going in all of these centers. We've already done the root, the sacral, and here's our 3rd exploration into the solar plexus. So we're going to be going into all of these centers to help embody the themes and the aspects of these, and also like have this understanding, this mental understanding and clarity of what are these centers? What does it mean to have a defined or undefined root? Like, how can we thrive in the root versus the surviving that comes? And the same thing in the emotional realm. Where are you surviving emotionally? Where do you not feel competent riding your own emotional wave? And where do you not feel competent relating with another person? Where is it too much to be in relation with somebody else? It's just like the relationship is so hard and you are just surviving in it. So we're going to be going into that within this Thrive by Design journey. It's part of the Inner Circle. So for those of you that are wanting to join the Inner Circle and and walk with us on this journey through all the different centers. You're going to be able to join either at a standard membership price, where you're live in the energy. This is rolling content. And what that means is like you have access. If you joined today, you have access to the solar plexus hub, and we'll go through that the whole month, but you won't have access to the sacral or the root, because it's just what's alive right now for us. So we're going to have the teaching video, we're going to have the embodiment webinar, we're going to have chart readings, and you're going to also have some perks with 20% off courses and 10% off readings with us. If you choose to join the premium membership, which has a ton of value in it, that one, you have access to everything we've previously done in Thrive by Design. That means the root is included, the sacral is included, the solar plexus, and however long you stay with us in the premium membership, you're going to get all the other Thrive by Design centers as well. And what you're also going to get as well is the strategy and authority course that we did. So this is like the basics, the foundation of human design. The Activate Your Genius course, which is $220, it's a value of $220. This one takes you through the whole activation sequence in the gene keys, and it's very, very rich. I think Rachel, you were in the webinar. Rachel just went through it, and she's helping us improve it and make it amazing, even more amazing. So that's included. And then also our Global Cycles course, which is talking about the transition to 2027, where we're at in global cycles right now. This is the collective cycle, global cycle, and then we're going to move into the cross of the sleeping phoenix in 2027. So if you're curious about that and the shift in 2027, which also has to do with the solar plexus center and the mutation there, you might be interested in global cycles. So these are the three things that are included in that. We also are adding something we call the vault, and that's going to have a lot more of unlock your design content. So you're going to have everything in the standard, access to all of the live things for the Thrive by Design journey, all the past Thrive by Design hubs that we went into, these 3 courses, and yeah, much more. So if you're interested in joining the inner circle, you can go to bit.ly/innercircle-44, and I'll post that in the chat for those of you that are live on the call with us right now in Zoom. And then we'll also make sure that those of you that are on Facebook, you have the link as well. But please, those of you that are in the Zoom container, please stay, because we are giving away a free month. And then we have a discount for everybody that joined us in the Zoom. Bella, yep, go ahead.
I think the important thing as well is that the inner circle is becoming more alive and more like a daily thing where we come together and we can co-create. We haven't really had the bandwidth because we're doing the Business by Design year-long course and the Portals of Deconditioning year-long course, and it's taken just so much for Ashley and me to be on that. But now we are actually bringing people that are helping us with the inner circle, so that it is really as a community. We also have guest speakers like astrologers that are coming in, and while that's going to be something that people outside the inner circle pay for, if you're in the inner circle, the master classes we're doing during the year and the guest speakers and all that is part of being in there, because we kind of feel like that's the place to be, and then you're the first one to get all the new things that we launch. And also because we are having more like VIP offerings in 2022, where of course, if you're already in our community, we are like wanting you to come with us on those like special occasion journeys with us first and foremost. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm a 4/6. The inner circle for me, I've been wanting to like focus on it for so long, and now finally I feel like we have the possibility and the support from the people that are coming in our team to also make this happen.
Yeah. So we would love for you to join us. Please check it out. And if you want to go into the Thrive by Design journey with us and get more in depth in the solar plexus this month, that's the theme for this month, the emotional center, the solar plexus, please join us. Thank you so much for joining us live on Facebook and YouTube. And we're going to conclude this live stream, and we're going to jump in to conversation with the people that are in our Zoom container. So thanks for joining us. Okay. Thank you, everyone that stayed on. Hello. Was it an hour? Thank you so much for being with us for an hour. I'm going to post a Google Doc for you guys. The reason I'm doing this Google Doc is I want everybody that wants to win a month in the inner circle. I want you to put your name in that Google Doc, and then we're going to do a random number generator to pick somebody on that list. So if you're already in the inner circle, don't put your name on there because you're already in it. Thank you. And if you would like to join the inner circle and maybe you didn't win the free month, we are offering you $22 off of your month. So you're going to type in the code SURF at checkout for the inner circle. $22 gets you off $22 off the premium membership and $22 off the standard, depending on which one you choose. It doesn't work. What doesn't work? The code SURF or the Google Doc?
Ashley, you put that everybody on the internet can view, not that they can edit. So if we can change, I can change the settings actually, I think.
Yes, please. Can you? View only. Oh, yes. Nobody wins. Yeah. So let me look at your questions because some of you posted some questions as well that we'll make sure that we answered.
I think it's good now.
It says if you are, I have one person. Yeah. Can you check? Are you guys able to put your names in it in the Google Doc? Bella just edited the setting. I'll post the link again. If you are a generator and an emotional authority, do you have both authorities? So meaning generator means that you have your your sacral center defined, but if you have your emotional, what are you
writing on top of each other? So I see that in cell A3, like it changed names like 50 times because everybody's writing in cell 3.
Oh, so it's
write a little further down, maybe.
This, I guess, is not working out. Make sure your name is on there, okay?
Stay in the document. It's fine.
I like it. It's the solar plexus center. It's like, oh. Okay, so going back to the question, if you're a generator and an emotional authority, you are not a sacral authority because the emotional authority, if you have that defined, that's automatically your authority. So you may have your sacral defined, so you're a generator and you have that going for you. But if you have the emotional center, that's what trumps everything else. So you're going to be able to learn about your emotional wave. You're not the yes, no, kind of thing. You're the, am I on a wave? Oh, I am. Okay, wait for clarity. That's the strategy for an emotional authority. We're going to wait for clarity. We're not going to react to our emotional wave. Even if you're on a high, if you're at like if you're getting a car and you're super excited about getting the car, you don't buy it that day. Go home, sleep on it, and allow yourself time to like get that clarity of what do I do? Because you can buy it on a high, you can buy it on a low. Like you don't want to make any decision off of like when the wave is going. You're going to want to like surf that wave, be on the wave, get to the shore. When you're on the shore and you're off the wave, you look back and be like, wow, okay, that journey, amazing. What's my decision? Hope that answered your question. Okay. How's it working now on the chat or on the thing, Bella?
Some people don't have like the Google Docs, so we'll just take their names before we do it. I'll just put in their names before we do it. But a lot of people have already inserted their name. So don't worry, if you don't have the app, we'll take your name before we do the numbers thing.
How are we going to take their name? What do you mean take their name?
I'll do it before. It's going to be fine. Any advice for two people with defined solar plexus in a romantic relationships? Okay, so I like what Ashley said in the beginning, that sometimes it feels like the first time. Like even if you have a wave that always kind of goes up and crashes, it's like if I look at you from the outside, I know exactly how this is going to end. I know exactly what's going to happen. But maybe, it takes a little while for you to really have the awareness about yourself. It's funny. I feel like my camera's good. Yeah, that's better. So I would say, if you can start to feel the timing of your waves, then that you can actually start to be like, oh, it's almost about recognition. How does those waves work together? Because it's some Raw says that some couples are going to be able to kind of adjust their waves so that they can do it together. I think it's more than anything about awareness and know how to not make yourself or the other person wrong for the wave, and just see like it's weather. it's like the weather, and today it's like this. And when I was saying the person I dated, and when he was able to say, you know, Bella, today I'm just going to watch Netflix. You can go out in the jungle, because we were in Brazil at the time. And, you know, it's nothing against you. This is me. And I'm not going to try to fix it. And that for him was such a liberation. And that became such a liberation for me too. So to kind of just know, even if you plan to go on a picnic, if you live in Florida, you're going to wake up in the morning and it's not picnic weather. And then you can go to movies or something else. Like, I feel like the acceptance of the emotional wave, and the way, like Ashley was saying too, communicating to each other. This is what's up for me. I want to, like, you know, this is what I'm up for. And I think what I also remember, and what I like, is when we had Jeremy Wilson inside of our Business by Design, he was saying, what was he saying? Not now? Like, how was it? I loved what he was saying, Ashley. Do you remember?
No, but I have the card right here that we remember?
Yeah.
Emotional. Not now.
Not now.
Not now.
Yeah. So it's like, no, it's not that I never want to have a picnic with you again, but it's not now. It's not that I don't want to have sex with you now, or anymore, but it's not now, because your wave is not receptive for that right now. And to have that, to be waiting, because in that waiting, you're going to have so many insights, maybe about that picnic, or maybe about that lovemaking. You know, the more you can wait it out, the intelligence of that emotional process that is in you can start to tell you things. So you're
sometimes initiating sex on like an emotional wave is like super exciting though, like the passion you're feeling in the moment. You know, you're not going to want to wait till after the wave is over. Okay, I'm done with my wave, not feeling it anymore, but let's do it now that my wave is over.
But I mean, I think I here we come into a much more complex conversation, because the program, of course, wants you to jump right now and do it and just have sex with that secretary that looks so hot. And that's going to be another experience to put into Grace Akashic records of everything that happened and was supposed to happen, because of the, you know, the accumulated experience of humanity. But really, when it comes to your life, possibly it would have been better to not just jump after that hot secretary. You know, like, these are the stories that have been going on and on and on as our genes and the program that is driving us. It's not wrong, but it's more funny when you can look at it than when you have to be part of that drama and then go and tell your partner what happened or not, and live with that inner anxiety, you know. So for me, I do believe that when we can be aware of the waves and not have to jump on them, our life is going to be less dramatic, for sure. Whether that's for good or for bad, I guess it's for each one of us to decide.
Yeah. I like what's happening in the Google Doc is somebody like adding the names, and then somebody's organizing it for us. Who's doing that? What's happening? I like you. Come work with us. Okay.
We have 2 more questions, right? Yeah, actually, yes. You were saying, you know, talking about the 12 pointing at the 22, you already spoke about it. So maybe go back to recording. Would you say that's a good idea?
Yeah, definitely. I think the synopsis of that is process your wave and get through your emotions before you actually go and share that with someone else, because you may say something you regret. So this is a gate of caution for a reason. Bite your tongue sometimes, or like put your tongue on the roof of your mouth and like just wait. Is this something I should say or share? Am I reacting? Am I throwing my emotion at them? Am I blaming? Am I shaming? What's happening here? And like be reflective before you just like vomit on someone. Okay.
Ashley, would you read the long question, the last question?
It says, I have a question for Manny Jens with emotional authority. I get that you need to wait until your emotions are in a neutral state, not at a high or a low, before making a decision. But once you are in the neutral state, are you then meant to listen to your sacral sounds for the yes, or the no, And what to do with a full instant yes or no? Do I still have to wait to respond? Sometimes you just know it's right? Ooh, that's like so dynamic. So basically what you're saying is if you're on an emotional wave and that wave is over, do you then go to your sacral center to get the or the How would you answer this, Bella? Because
I mean, I think this ties into the person before that says, okay, I'm an emotional generator. Does that mean that I'm both sacral and emotional? And yeah, when you are a generator, you're here to respond to life. And you are going to be able to respond to life from that sacral center that's kind of pulling you toward things. And here, exactly like Evelyn is saying, when you have the emotional wave, that can kind of pull you away from that sacral centeredness. I wouldn't, what I like what everything that you're saying, and at the same time, it's not really sequential. It's not like, okay, now I'm neutral, let me listen to my sacral. I feel like for many people, it's not really happening like that. So when you're neutral, you're going to be more able to listen to your inner truth, I guess. And to not, it's mechanical, but it's not like you can always think about it ABC, it's just not like, it's not the way that we humans are working really. And some people have the sacral and the spleen, like that person that was writing as well. So there are going to be also hunches and intuitions. But the most important thing when you have an emotional center, if you can wait and surf the wave, there's going to be intelligence there. And because this is becoming an awareness center and not just a motor, there is truth in just that process. So you're going to have possibly even more truth, because you also have your spleen, you have your sacral, if those are defined, that can give you information. So there are so many places where you can get information from when you have a lot of centers that are defined. And when they are defined, the other thing we say is that they are quite narrow. So you can get to know those centers in yourself, because they are going to work in a consistent manner. And then you can be like, oh, this is what my spleen feels like. Oh, this is what, and you're going to know the specific gates. And this is why, for me, Thrive by Design, what we are doing is what Ashley didn't say, but what I think is one more thing that's super important, that you're going to be able to know what circuitry, not because you have to sit and study it in the boring books, but the way that we work with them, you're going to know what circuitry something is in. And this is for me, this is the biggest downfall with the gene keys. When we speak about gate 22 and we don't know what circuitry it's part of, when we speak about 49 and we don't know that it's tribal, like when you understand the process, like actually, what does that archetype care about? Does it care about me, and my creativity and my individuality and my mutation? Or does it care about we, the tribe, the ones I can touch, the people that I sit at the same table with, the people that I sit and like touch their hair and these things, like the tribal support? Or are they collective? Do they care about the future and how we walk together into the future? Like when you know the archetypes that are activated in you, you're going to know the things that you care about. And then can have much more clarity of how your spleen works, because it's going to be, you're going to know, you're going to be able to put together one and one. And then you're going to be like, okay, that's what speaks in me now. Okay, I get it. So for me, the more intimately that you get to know the different parts of you, you're going to see that together they are creating a truth for you, but it's not a sequential truth really. However, if you are an emotional authority, that's always the waiting that is it's part of your strategy. It's just the way that it's so powerful. So if you don't wait for it, you can get drowned in the wave kind of thing.
And you're not waiting for like certainty, because I don't think you're ever going to have that like definitive yes or no. You're going to, the best of your ability, which one is the best option for you. But I don't think, because if you're an emotional authority, there's going to be waves and you're going to be like, I don't know, I'm in doubt and this and that. So I think that it's easy to struggle with decision making when you think like you have to be 100% certain about something. Then you get into analysis paralysis.
And another way too is to look at the archetype and then use the Living Library, Richard's website, and be like, okay, what are the reactive and the repressive shadows here? Because you're gonna the same thing that if it's a collective, a tribal, or an individual gate. When you are in it, you can see some of the shadows might even feel exciting. They are like, when you're in it, you feel so alive, and that's often what can happen with emotional. So look at whatever gates that you have defined in the emotional center, look at the shadow frequency and the repressed and the reactive, to be like, am I making this better than what it is? Like there are those things that feel like so intense and so alive, so we are not actually admitting to ourselves that it's a shadow, because it just feels like, and I know that my mom has made the decisions a million times in the now, because if she doesn't do it now, she feels like it's going to go away tomorrow, and it's not going to be, it's going to be too late. And yeah, if you think kind of like, I want to cut the head of this person. If you don't do it now, it's probably going to be away forever, because tomorrow you're not going to need to cut the head of that person because you're going to have calmed down. But that's the kind of things that, that happens with emotions. So never get what is it called? There is just like a seduction in don't get seduced to think that you need to do something now and otherwise it will go away, because that's not really, at least according to Ra, how it works,
Yeah. Okay, I think we answered all the, is there more questions in the chat?
I would just address what Cheryl said. Yeah, so today I do agree that we have like spoken a lot about the not self and like how to not fall into the risks of it. And when it comes to the deconditioned emotional center, as a person who has nothing in that center, I do feel very safe when I'm around them. And I do feel like when we speak about the warm, enchanted forest for the generator, when we have emotional generators and manifesting generators that are taking responsibility for their waves and that are not making themselves wrong for it and nobody else, it just feels like very mature to be in that energy and very safe. Yeah.
Speaking of, safety is something we need to resource within ourselves too. And I think that we can get conditioned by if you're an open emotional center and you're around somebody with a defined emotional center and they have their own way of processing things, maybe they're repressing something, maybe it's not super healthy, but you grew up around that, so that became your safety. Even though it wasn't healthy, your nervous system is like, this is normal, so this is safe, even though it's unhealthy. So we're here to look at our own emotional processing to see kind of like, what is this rhythm in my nervous system that may not be healthy for me, that we want to like reprogram, that we learned from somebody in our childhood? Or do we find and attach to somebody that has a defined emotional authority because they're not on a wave and it seems like, oh, I feel so good around them because they're stable, right? Nothing's going to come in because they kind of like blocked out my solar plexus center. I feel the same way with my son, he's 10 and he's the only one in our family with a defined emotional center. And I just want to lay in bed with him because I'm like, it just feels so peaceful. Nothing's going to get in. It's like he's protecting my solar plexus center. And everybody wants to sleep in his room. He's the only one in our family that has the defined solar plexus center. And he's the one that's also teaching us how to respond. Like he'll correct me on some things. Mom, you didn't need to react that way. You could have just said X, Y, Z. And I'm like, you're so right. I totally emotionally reacted. And it's because he's not on the wave. Like he can look at things and not feel the emotional waves of everybody else in the house because it's just his. And then he'll look at it and be like, we didn't need to do that, or you didn't need to say that. I'm like, you're so wise, my little 10-year-old Yoda. Thank you. Yeah.
There's a last question, Ashley, I think for you maybe, because it's, is there something with gate 6 and the connection to the 59 for a manifesting generator? But I think in general, like you have the 6 in your life's work. So is there something that you can shine light on when it comes to the 59 as well?
I don't feel good. I feel sick already. I don't know. I have the 6 in my life's work in an open emotional center. And there's something really scary for me about the 59 because it breaks down the walls of the 6. It can be a beautiful relationship if it's built on trust and safety, because the 59 comes in and it wants to mate and it wants intimacy. And the 6 is like, do I let you in or do I not? The only one that has the potential to break down the walls of the 6 is the 59. So that relationship, if someone has the 59 and the other person has the 6, it can be this potential to come together and really have true intimacy, because this is tribal circuitry and this is all about perpetuating the species. It's mating. It's a channel of mating. So you also have to be very particular about who you mate with. You're not going to just create babies with anybody. It's like, okay, that guy or that woman, because that person's going to be a really good nurturer, or that person has a really like fit body, and not because he looks good, but because like he's strong. So maybe we'll make strong children and that'll help the tribe keep going. But I think that the 6 knows who it's going to let in and who it's not. So trust your boundaries. Trust when it's a no for you if you have the 6. And trust that if you have the 59, you're here to like be intimate, and you're here to be transparent, and you're here to have, what, Ben? Okay, go outside. Yeah, I lost my train of thought. But anyways, I don't know what else I was saying because I got distracted. Boundaries, intimacy, there's communication is so important, I think. Like, talk about what you're open to and talk about what's off the table, and talk about and share what your desires are. Share. The 59 needs to be transparent. That's the only way that's going to create intimacy, or else there's going to be this feeling of mistrust. And it's like, I don't know if I can trust you, because it's like, I can feel like you want to go have sex with everyone and anyone, you know, but it's like, to really be transparent with each other is going to strengthen the relationship.
Actually, I remember that Jenny, who is the other admin in the human design relationship group, she has the 59.5. She's a 5-1 in her life's work. So I wonder what would happen if I put you in the same container.
Oh God.
She has 5 kids. She had 4.
See?
And everybody thought she was done. And then
I had 3 kids and I thought I was done. And then little reflector Aurora snuck in and she's like, I'm going to be part of this family. So I have 4. You can't help it. You have the 6 or the 59. And it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have a bunch of kids. You could be a teacher, or you can work with children. Like,
but it's very fertile. It's actually, it is very fertile. And
that's why my 6 has to say no.
4 kids. And then Jenny has 5 kids. And it just kind of happens. And it's not really like they plan it. It's not like any of them said like, oh, I was born to have children. It's just like what this tribal circuitry does, because it is the channel of mating, It's your makeup. It's your energetics. You can't help it. For me, I'm like, I won't say anything because my kids are all around me. I love them to death, but like retrospectively, I would be like, I don't know how many I would actually really want. Even though I'm fertile and I can have babies, I have to say no all the time because I'm like, no, if there's no protection and there's no, like, I'm not going to risk getting pregnant again. That's not something that I want to bring into my life right now. Like, so learning to say no, and disappointing someone, maybe the 59 that has like a high sex drive, where they're like, I just want to be intimate and I want to feel the merging. It's like, no, if that's going to produce a baby, then no. Anyways, we can go on and on about that, but I think maybe we should pick our winner. We've been talking for like, I am going to ask you to actually, I don't care about your email address right now. If you have not been able to put your name in the Google Doc, I would like you to write your name one time in the chat, just one time. And that's it. And I'm going to put them into. Ashley, can you just read the names that are in the chat, and I'll just put them in the document.
Guirlaine, Guirlaine.
Mm-hmm.
Cheryl with an L with an E at the end. Us, Kia. That's it.
No one else that wasn't able to put their name in? That's all? Okay.
3 people.
Okay, perfect. Ew. So then we have 33 people. No, we have 32.
Oh, Heidi. Heidi.
Okay, Heidi. Our Heidi, or what Heidi?
Heidi, are you our Heidi? Does Heidi already have access to the inner, or is it our Heidi? If Heidi's already in the inner circle, then she doesn't need to. Are you in the inner circle, Heidi? Do you have access? Oh, I think maybe. She's one of your private clients, right, Bella?
Sorry?
Is Heidi one of your private clients?
Not anymore. So maybe that's why.
Oh, yeah. Then you should be on this list because you don't have access to the inner circle anymore. Okay. So what do we have? 30. Is it 33?
33. Exactly 33.
Okay. Let me screen share then. 33. This is the list.
Oh, I didn't know. A random number generator.
Yeah.
That's how you do it.
That's how you do it. Okay, ready?
Yes.
3, 2, 1. Enid Torres, you are the winner. Winner, let me highlight you. Wait, I can't see all my stuff. So are you still on the?
Yeah.
She's still here?
She saw it. Is it? I don't even know. Enid, is that a woman or a man's name? I don't actually know.
Where are you from?
Where are you from?
Where
Enid?
are you from?
What's your ethnicity?
Where, congratulations. Okay, so the email's there. So I'm gonna check in the academy. I have like this rainbow thing following me. I'm gonna check in the academy to see if you're already in there, and then I'll add you to the inner circle for the month. Otherwise, I'll email you and I'll give you the link to sign up. And for those of you that are wanting to get into the inner circle, let me get you the link, and remember to use the code SURF, because that is that's what's going to give you $22 off. So I'll post in the chat, and I'll also send an email out with this replay and the code again for those of you. So thank you so much for being here and traveling into the Solar Plexus Center with us. And your questions were really great. So again, thank you so much. And we'll see you inside the inner circle for the Solar Plexus Center. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.